We are just a little more than 100 days out from what could shape up to be a pretty important primary election here in New York. For a long time, it looked like Governor Kathy Hochul would cruise to the Democratic nomination, and she still may. But what may have seemed unthinkable just a few months ago now seems quite possible. It involves former Governor Andrew Cuomo getting back into the race. Today, he had this campaign-style event down in the Bronx. He posed for pictures. And today, when asked if he was considering running for governor, he wouldn't rule it out. He said, quote, "I'm open to all options." He still has a base of support, even as a majority of New Yorkers in many polls have said that he was right to resign amid sexual harassment allegations about a year ago. Joining us live to talk about this and what comes next is Democratic political analyst Ken Kruly. It's always great to get your perspective, Ken. I got to tell you, it was really kind of a stunning sight to see today. The former governor at that church downstate, it was packed with supporters. Do you think that he is kind of planting the seeds right now to actually make a gubernatorial run? Or is this all just spectacle and part of an effort to rehab his reputation?
Well, it's probably both, but I watched the speech after it occurred, and certainly sounded like a campaign speech to me, parlayed, of course, with the couple of commercials that he's run about things that he's done. And the first one, of course, trying to exonerate himself with the scandal. He appeared to me to be like a candidate today.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it. I mentioned that kind of poll after poll has showed that a majority of New Yorkers think Cuomo should have resigned as he did. They think that he did sexually harass those women. But the primary electorate doesn't necessarily reflect the entire state, right? So I want to show our viewers this poll that recently came out from Emerson College and The Hill. The question was just to Democratic primary voters, and it said, if Andrew Cuomo was to run in the Democratic primary for governor, who would you vote for? Kathy Hochul leads the pack at 37%, but Cuomo is not far behind, 33%. Almost a third say that they would vote for somebody else or they're undecided, something like that. It is incredibly tight, no doubt. So, Ken, we'll get your reaction to this in a moment. But first, to kind of provide some balance here, we talked earlier today with Republican political analyst Carl Calabrese. Here's what he said about the poll.
I was very surprised by that poll, primarily because just the month before, just a few short weeks before, Siena College Research Division did their monthly poll of New York voters, which I follow every single month. They had 5 questions about Cuomo. Basically, do you believe him or do you believe Letitia James? Do you believe he harassed women? Do you believe he did the right thing in leaving office? And the results were just overwhelming. By 2 to 1, people believed he harassed women. They believed Letitia James over Andrew Cuomo, and a full 80% of New Yorkers said he did the right thing by leaving. So I was kind of surprised at the discrepancy between 2 polls done literally a few weeks apart.
So, Ken, how do you see it? Were you surprised by this? How do you size up the poll?
Well, I think we need to put the poll in a little bit of perspective. The earlier polls that have been taken where they had included Cuomo in a potential race, he was around 20%, and this number is much better than that. But the poll was taken last Wednesday and Thursday last week, which followed about 10 days of advertising Cuomo, where he ran the ad saying that he was innocent and all the charges had been dropped against him and so forth. And so if this was an actual campaign going on, that sort of ad would have been immediately responded to by other candidates who would have pointed out that the DAs did find that the women who charged the harassment had a credible case. They just thought that they couldn't prove it in a court. And there's also, of course, still the issues of the nursing home and the book deal. I think that the poll last week was boosted by the advertising. It probably was intended for that purpose, and what they followed up with the new commercial and a couple of speeches he's given recently are all in the campaign mode.
Yeah, and before we go, I want to also share with some of our viewers, we showed some of the video of Cuomo today having that event down in the Bronx, but just play a little bit. You mentioned this felt like a campaign speech, and he certainly went at the allegations that have been lodged against him over the past year. Let's play a little bit of that.
It did break my heart to see that government could be used for bad purposes. But it didn't break my spirit. Amen. And I am more committed to fighting and fighting harder to do the right thing, because government has to work. It has to be responsible. I have seen what it can do, and I believe in it. And I am not going anywhere, and I'm going to continue to fight the good fight.
So Ken, he's stopping short of saying he's actually running in the primary, but I think a lot of people are going to watch that and think that that's what's next.
Yeah, well, and times are wasting, Michael. Petitions have to be filed 3 weeks from today. So he's got considerable money. He could hire people to go out and do petitions. Most party people wouldn't carry petitions for him. But he's certainly edging into a campaign. He seems to have forgotten, however, that he's only been out of office for about 7 months, and that the things he complains about, such as bail reform issues, are issues that he was involved in. He signed the law that created the bail reform law that is now subject to a lot of questioning. And there are other things like that. So in a real campaign, if he does choose to get into this, it's all not going to be one-sided about what a great job he did, and now everything got messed up in the last 7 months. It's going to be a much more even approach to the whole thing, and I'm not sure that how well that's thought out, or whether again it's interested in revenge or getting back at people for what they've done.
Something we'll be following closely. It's always great to get your perspective on this. You've been following these things for a long time. Ken Kruly has been our guest, one of our Democratic political analysts. Great to see you, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on here on the Town Hall. A company that the state counted on to help bring hundreds of jobs here to Western New York as part of former Governor Cuomo's Buffalo Billion program, facing more serious financial problems. The pharmaceutical firm Athenix is doing some major cost cutting. Its corporate headquarters is at the Conventus building on Buffalo's medical campus, while executives announced a workforce reduction to help reduce operating expenses by 50%. Earlier this year, you'll remember Athenix sold off its lease to a $200 million state-funded manufacturing plant down in Dunkirk. A California-based company called Immunity Bio has now taken that over. Not yet clear right now how many of Athenix's layoffs will happen here in Buffalo or at its operation in Newstead. We'll let you know. And new today, university status. Damon College in Amherst got approval this week from the New York State Education Department's Board of Regents to change its name to Damon University. And that change is effective immediately. In a statement today, Damon leaders said that this change should make it easier to recruit internationally, since many countries view universities as more prestigious than colleges. All of this comes after the state broadened its definition of a university earlier this year. It's kind of made it easier for schools to do this. DeUville College became a university last month. Medaille College has started the process, and Canisius College is thinking about it as well.